now are a nation known to start war. We feel compelled because of our insecurity that we have to go over and attack these countries to maintain our empire. We have over 700 bases, we're in 130 countries, and they're talking about bombing Iran. It is such a dramatic change from what is truly American and truly constitutional.
I don't want to run the world. The Constitution doesn't give me the authority to run the world. We ought to mind our own business is what we need to do. With all this spending overseas, wasted money. This is a continuation of a revolution. It is a peaceful revolution. It's up to you to spread this message around this country. This is an American cause. It's a cause of freedom. There's something going on in this country, and it's big. Spread the message. Thank you.
Congress shall now vote for approval of H.R. 8791, the Homeland Terrorism Preparedness Bill. Said bill requests emergency response funding up to and including, this section is classified, dollars to prepare for a national level terrorist attack and or attack from classified. Funding for first responder personnel and vehicles would be doubled if said attack leads to more than 80% of national population being affected by classified. This funding shall commence in conjunction with the first attack on classified or the first large-scale outbreak of classified, dependent upon which comes first. Civilian and military units shall be trained in containment and combat of classified, including irradiated classified, with possibility of classified airborne, classified flesh-eating, classified, and or all of the above in such event as classified spewing, classified escape, are released or otherwise become uncontrollable. Air Force units may also be directed to combat said classified due to their enormous size and otherworldly strength. Should event occur in urban areas, that's classified, far surpassing our darkest nightmares. Should casualties exceed classified, body disposal actions shall be halted and associated resources shall be reallocated to classified underground, classified protected birthing centers. A new Bill of Rights shall be drafted and approved by classified. Having now reviewed the bill, I ask you to please cast your votes.
Some of the least noticed and least discussed changes in the law were the changes made to the Insurrection Act of 1807 and to Posse Comitatus by the Defense Authorization Act of 2007. These changes pose a threat to the survival of our republic by giving the President the power to declare martial law for as little reason as to restore public order. The 1807 Act severely restricted the President in his use of the military within the United States borders, and the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 strengthened these restrictions with strict oversight by Congress. The new law allows the President to circumvent the restrictions of both laws. The Insurrection Act has now become the, quote, Enforcement of the Laws to Restore Public Order Act, close quote. This is hardly a title that suggests that the authors cared about or understood the nature of a constitutional republic. Now, martial law can be declared not just for insurrection, but also for natural disasters, public health reasons, terrorist attacks or incidents, or for the vague reason called other conditions. The President can call up the National Guard without congressional approval or the governor's approval, and even send these state guard troops into other states. The American Republic is in remnant status. The stage is set for our country eventually devolving into a military dictatorship, and few seem to care. These precedent-setting changes in the law are extremely dangerous and will change American jurisprudence forever if not revised. The beneficial results of our revolt against the King's abuses are about to be eliminated, and few members of Congress and few Americans are aware of the seriousness of the situation.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Oregon rise? Without objection.
Most Americans would agree that it would be prudent to have a plan to provide for the continuity of government and the rule of law in case of a devastating terrorist attack or natural disaster. A plan that provides for the cooperation, the coordination, and continued functioning of all three branches of the government. The Bush administration tells us they have such a plan. They introduced a little sketchy public version that's clearly inadequate and doesn't really tell us what they have in mind. But they said, don't worry, there's a detailed classified version. But now they've denied the entire Homeland Security Committee of the United States House of Representatives access to their so-called detailed plan to provide for continuity of government. They say, trust us. Trust us, the people who brought us Katrina, to be competent in face of a disaster. Trust us, the people who brought us warrantless wiretapping and other excesses eroding our civil liberties. Trust us. Maybe the plan just really doesn't exist, and that's why they won't show it to us. I don't know. Or maybe there's something there that's outrageous. The American people need their elected representatives to review this plan for the continuity of government.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise? Request permission to address the House for 1 minute. Without objection.
Law ever become a reality in America? Some fear any nuclear, biological, or chemical attack on U.S. territory might trigger just that. And as KSLA News 12's Jeff Farrell discovered, the clergy would help the government with potentially their biggest problem, us.
From my cold, dead hands.
Charlton Heston's famous declaration captures a truly American value, the overarching desire to protect our freedoms. But gun confiscation is exactly what happened during the state of emergency following Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. U.S. troops also arrived, something far easier to do even now thanks to last year's elimination of the 1878 Posse Comitatus Act. That forbid U.S. troops from policing on American soil. If martial law were enacted here at home, like depicted in the movie The Siege, easing public fears and quelling dissent would be critical. And that's exactly what the clergy response team, as it's called, helped accomplish in New Orleans.
Jeff, the primary thing that we say to anybody is let's cooperate and get this thing over with, and then we'll settle the differences once the crisis is over.
Such clergy response teams would walk a tightrope between the needs of the government versus the wishes of the public.
In a lot of cases, these clergy would already be known in the neighborhoods in which they're helping to defuse that situation.
For the clergy, one of the biggest tools that they will have in helping calm the public down or obey the law is the Bible itself, specifically Romans 13.
Because the government is established by the Lord, you know, and that's what we believe in the Christian faith. That's what's stated in the Scripture.
Civil rights advocates believe the amount of public cooperation may depend largely on how long they expect a suspension of their rights might last. Jeff Farrell, KSLA News 12 reporting.
And according to Tuberville, during Hurricane Katrina, the clergy response team provided 38 chaplains a day around the clock at 8 different camps.
All right, tomorrow the Senate will vote on the defense spending bill, but what is normally a routine vote has been surrounded by controversy. Senators McCain and Levin added a provision which would require terrorist suspects held in military custody. But could that extend to U.S. citizens eventually? Joining us right now is Fox News senior judicial analyst and host of Freedom Watch on the Fox Business Network, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Good morning to you.
Stevie, good morning.
Okay, so explain what this particular provision would do.
This is a bill to fund the Defense Department. There's a lot of other bells and whistles in it.
Usually that's just pro forma, let's vote.
Right. Here's the amount of money the Defense Department can spend. Here's how we want them to spend it.
Right.
But Senators McCain and Levin have added this legislation which would authorize the President to declare the entire United States of America, all 50 states and all territories, to be a battlefield,
right,
even though there's no battle, thanks be to God, going on here.
War on Terror is different.
And that would authorize him to use commander-in-chief authority in the United States to use the military to arrest people in the United States who, in the President's opinion, are enemies of the country. It would then permit him to incarcerate and detain these people indefinitely, to keep them from a lawyer, to keep them from a judge, to keep them from a jury, to lock them up for as long as he wants.
Okay, so now if some al-Qaeda guy slipped across our border and tried to blow something up, you'd have no problem with the President of the United States saying, okay, that guy goes to Gitmo.
I would. I would. It's not me that would have the problem, it's the Constitution that has the problem. Because the Constitution specifically says no person, not no American, no person shall lose life, liberty, or property
so terrorists
without due
have
process.
rights.
They do, but that's not the problem with this. The problem with this is Senator Lindsey Graham, who supports it, has argued that this would authorize the President of the United States to arrest Americans by simply saying they gave up their citizenship rights.
Here's what Lindsey Graham says. Basically, say in law for the first time the homeland is part of the battlefield and people can go to jail indefinitely, American citizen or not. So you're just afraid down the road that one day the President of the United States, whomever he or she might be, might say, okay, let's arrest that guy.
Suppose the President decided that one of his political opponents was an enemy of the state. He could make that person disappear. Sounds fanciful, sounds crazy, but it's true.
Quickly, will this pass?
I don't know if it will pass. There's a lot of other controversial aspects of this bill, including the right to carry guns in all 50 states, which conservatives and libertarians like.
All right.
So it's going to be a debate, and it's going to be a close one.
And they have debates each and every night on Freedom Watch over on the Fox Business Network. Judge Andrew Napolitano, we thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
I might have a moment to respond and suggest the absence of a quorum. Does the senator withhold his quorum call? Sure. The senator from Kentucky. With regard to releasing the prisoners, I'm not asking that we release them. I think there probably have been some mistakes of people who've been let go. What I'm asking only for is due process, and we release some of those people without any kind of process and a flawed process, so we did make a mistake. Due process doesn't mean, and believing in the process doesn't mean necessarily that we would release these people. Due process often convicts. Jose Padilla was given 17 years in prison with due process. So I don't think it necessarily follows that I'm arguing for releasing of prisoners. I'm just simply arguing that people, particularly American citizens in the United States, not be sent to a foreign prison without due process.
Well, Mr. President, in response to that, we're not arguing that they be sent to a foreign prison. What we are arguing is that they are designated as enemy combatants. And when they're enemy combatants, then they're subject to the rules and the laws of war. And those, and again, I point out the fact that there have been a number who have been released, who have re-entered the fight, and that kind of situation is not something that we want to prevail. So, I mean, as I said, facts are stubborn things, and they are designated as enemy combatants and will be treated as such during the period of combat.
Will the senator yield for a question?
Yeah.
My question would be, under the provisions, would it be possible that an American citizen then could be declared an enemy combatant and sent to Guantanamo Bay and detained indefinitely?
I think that as long as that individual, no matter who they are, if they pose a threat to the security of the United States of America, should not be allowed to continue that threat. And I think that's the majority of American public opinion, especially in light of the facts that I continue to repeat to the senator from Kentucky. 27% of detainees who were released got back in the fight and were responsible for the deaths of Americans. We need to take every step necessary to prevent that from happening. That's for the safety and security of the men and women who are out there putting their lives on the line in our armed services. Mr. President, I suggest the absence of a quorum. Or